entertainer. Today, we're talking about how a young revolutionary used the sheer power of theater and a highly compressed lifespan to literally become an immortal visual icon. We're going to look closely at the actual visual Bhagat Singh time. We'll see how one man intentionally, act by act, crafted an image designed to outlast his own life.
Take a look at these famous words. You might think they were penned in some quiet study, right? Well, actually, they were dropped from a public gallery right in the middle of a political bombing. It was a deeply theatrical act, instantly setting the stage for a legacy that was built to endure. He absolutely understood the immense power of pairing an explosive moment with an unshakable idea.
Look at how incredibly compressed his timeline really was. His most history-altering, explosive activities, they spanned just a few short years between 1928 and his execution in 1931. He was only 23 years old.
Section 1. Roots of a Revolutionary.
So, going back to his early days, way before the global fame hit, he was already channeling massive energy into organizing youth and publishing anti-British pamphlets. But even then, he was playing with identity. He'd hide his real name behind pseudonyms like Balwant and Ranjit, dodging the police while making sure his message kept spreading.
Section 2. This Saunders assassination. Things escalated incredibly fast. After a brutal police assault led to the death of nationalist leader Lala Lajpat Rai, Singh and the HSRA wanted revenge. But in a chaotic turn of events, they mistakenly assassinated a junior officer, John P. Saunders, and tragically ended up shooting a constable during their escape. Now, in the immediate aftermath, we see a massive ideological divide open up. On one side, the HSRA rapidly altered pre-printed posters to visually claim the act, framing it as a vindication of national honor. But on the other side, prominent figures, like Mahatma Gandhi, strictly condemned the violence, calling it a retrograde step. We're just looking at how both sides completely polarized around this moment. To evade the massive police manhunt that followed the shooting, Singh orchestrated this highly visual escape from Lahore. He completely transformed his physical appearance. He cut his hair, shaved his beard, threw on a Western hat, and posed as a young family man on a train. Right under the authorities' noses, he became an unrecognizable symbol of defiance. Section 3. The Assembly Bombing Drama.
He explicitly viewed his rebellion as a drama, right? One designed for maximum public consumption. This next act wasn't an assassination attempt, it was pure political theater. After throwing no-intensity bombs, smoke filled the legislative chamber. But instead of escaping in the confusion, Singh and his associate Batu Kashwardut just stayed. They shouted slogans, showered leaflets from the gallery, and intentionally let themselves get arrested. Why? Because they intentionally got arrested to turn the courtroom into a giant megaphone. During the trial, they laid out a really nuanced defense of force, making absolutely sure their ideology was broadcast directly to the masses through sympathetic newspapers.
Section 4. Hunger Strike and Trial.
The discrimination inside the prison was just stark. European prisoners were getting all these amenities, while Indian political prisoners were treated as common criminals. So, realizing the jail itself was just another theater of war, Singh spearheaded a massive hunger strike. The physical toll of this was incredibly severe. He lost 14 pounds on the strike. During the trial proceedings, he actually had to be carried into the courtroom handcuffed to a stretcher. Think about the impact of that image. A young man literally starving himself for equality, giving the public a striking, unforgettable visual of resistance. The timeline of the strike was agonizing. It dragged on for 116 days and resulted in the tragic death of fellow faster Jatin Das. But the sacrifice worked. It dominated the news cycle, galvanized the whole nation, and made Singh a household name. And even when he was physically weakened, he still controlled his visual narrative. In early 1930, the defendants showed up in court wearing striking, bright red scarves. This was a highly deliberate aesthetic choice, explicitly signaling a shift toward global Marxist ideologies right in front of the British magistrate. Section 5. Ideologies behind the image. But who was the intellect behind all these theatrical acts? Well, in prison, he consumed massive amounts of political theory. He developed a staunch Marxist worldview. In fact, on the very day of his execution, he was deep into a book about Lenin. He also became a resolute atheist, arguing that religious divides were actively hindering Indian independence. When a fellow Sikh inmate accused him of giving up religion out of pure ego, Singh penned his famous essay, Why I Am an Atheist. He argued that his atheism was an act of pure reason and courage, definitely not vanity. He firmly refused to pray simply to ease his fear of death.
Section 6. An enduring visual symbol.
So, to avoid any further public spectacle, the government bypassed normal judicial processes. A special tribunal sentenced the 23-year-old to death in his absence. Then, fearing massive unrest, authorities hastily executed him and his comrades 11 hours ahead of schedule, under the cover of darkness. But as future Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru so astutely observed, the immense power of Singh's image totally eclipsed the violence of his actual deeds. His hanging sparked immediate mourning, hartals, and strikes across the entire nation. It cemented a legacy that vastly transcended his short life.
Today, his legacy completely defies simple categorization. It's fascinating how his face has become this ubiquitous icon, claimed by vastly different political factions, from the left to Hindu and Sikh nationalists. His statues stand proudly in Parliament, and his distinct image, especially in that Western hat, proves the incredible endurance of his visual brand.
So it leaves us with a fascinating final thought on how we consume history. When an activist so masterfully crafts their visual narrative, do we actually remember the nuanced political theorists behind it? Or do we just remember the poster? It's definitely something we should all take away from the brief, brilliant, and deeply complex timeline of Bhagat Singh.